You guys are in the right place if you're here to see the session, Getting Started with CF Docker Images. My name is Charlie Arehart, and I'll be your host for the next 55 minutes. And just this quick background, if you need to reach me, follow up with me. There's all my contact information, email address, very easy to reach on social media, Slack, and GitHub and everything. It's all just Arehart. So pretty much everything you can reach. And left over from Monday's session. So I'll say also later on that I'll have these slides up on my website after the session, so you'll be able to get that information. You don't have to write down everything you see. Just take notes of what you think is interesting and come back and check it out one later. All right. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, I'm hoping that you read the session description because it was really very clear. The point is to show you how to get started with Docker and get started with Adobe CF Docker Images. Those are the two goals. And so you could be coming from any of various places. There's lots of different people here with lots of different experience. And I just want to tell you, you could be a developer, you could be an administrator, you could be a tester, you could be a team lead, you could be a business person. And there's reasons to be interested in leveraging CF and Docker Images, regardless of what your role is. And it's not going to be obvious at first, perhaps for some of you, but as you learn about it, this will be, if it's new to you, this will wet your whistle. If you're experienced with it, you already know what I'm talking about. And so I want to admit that, your background could be any of these. You could be, you've never heard of Docker and you just rolled into this session because you didn't maybe find the other one interesting, so I'll check this one out. But most of you probably have at least heard of it, but maybe you've never really understood it. And I know there's others well beyond that, but I'm just telling you, we have to understand that in this audience, it could be people that are at these 2 points, and this is written to speak to them as well as to you. It could be that you try to install it, because installing Docker involves installing something. We'll talk about that later. You don't have to, there's a way to get around that. But primarily, you've installed Docker, and maybe you tried it and had trouble, and gave up, you just weren't motivated enough to figure it out. It was just an interesting thing to try. Or maybe you did get it working, but you just never worked with the CF images. And when I say CF images, I'll say either type, because there are Adobe CF images, and then there's also the Ortis command box image, which includes an image for CF. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on. So I understand some of you may well have been using the Ortis command box, or maybe you've looked into using CF and Docker, and everything you found and read was talking about using that, and you might have either pursued that and you may be happy and you're curious then to hear what's different about the CF, Adobe CF images, or maybe you don't know anything about these things. So yeah, I'm trying to speak to everybody in this audience. You can be among any of those people in this audience, so bear with me. Just quickly about myself, folks who've seen me, this is my 7th year presenting here, and I've been in CF for 20 years and enterprise IT for 35 plus. I started when I was really very young. And I am an independent consultant, so I don't work for Adobe, I don't work for anybody, I work for myself. And all I do all day is provide troubleshooting. Primarily Cold Fusion, sometimes with Lucy, but primarily CF engines, pretty much all day, every day. And so if y'all ever have any troubles, reach out to me. I provide such help, satisfaction guarantee. We usually work very quickly, remotely. 99% of the work I do is entirely remote. And I'm also really active in the community, so you'll find me answering questions and offering resources on the forums, on the portal, which if you don't know about it, there's an Adobe CF portal. Go to coldfusion.adobe.com. If you've never been to it, never heard of it, do check it out, coldfusion.adobe.com. It's the Adobe Cold Fusion portal. And I'm active on the mailing lists and various social media. And again, the contact information on the slide. And again, the slides will be available afterward in my website. The website's arehart.org. Arehart.org. You just go to presentation or slide presentations. Okay. All right, so again, I want to start with, maybe if you're familiar with Docker, I'll get to you if you're not, but if you're familiar with Docker, I'm saying, did you even know that there were CF, Adobe CF Docker images? You'd be forgiven because they don't get much press. And I don't mean from others, I mean even from Adobe. Again, for a few years, there's been the Ortis provided command box image, and it can run Cold Fusion and Lucy, and we'll talk about that again later on. And what I'm getting at here just is to say that most resources we read on the web are about that, so you wouldn't know that there were even Adobe CF images. And this is the real kicker, is that if you are familiar with Docker, and again, I know some of you aren't, so don't, but those who are familiar with Docker, if you go to Docker Hub and type Cold Fusion, you're not going to find these because they're not there. Docker Hub is the default registry for Docker, and these CF images from Adobe are not there. Instead, they're at some place called bintray.com. So let me just take a look at that with you real quick. Again, for those who already know Docker Hub, we'll come back to that later if you don't, but maybe you've never seen this Bintray site. And it was a licensing issue. Apparently, Docker Hub wanted a lot of money to put them up here. So if you come to this Bintray site, and I'll show you later, there's a place that points you directly to this, but let's just say you didn't know anything about what I'm telling you. And if you go to Bintray and type in their search box, Cold Fusion. It's not a Stanford's website anymore. And, oh, you know what? I just realized I didn't think to connect my internet. Oh, we did. We could just slow, sure. All right, so anyway, there you go. So you see CF Cold Fusion. When you click on that link, then you see information about the Cold Fusion images. Now, one thing that's not obvious from looking at this is that there's more than just the Cold Fusion images. If you go up to the Cold Fusion level, I don't know why they didn't take us there. But again, there's an Adobe document that points you to this, and this is where that document points you. And if you look here, you see that there's more than just Cold Fusion specifically. So over on the right there is Cold Fusion, and then on the left is the Cold Fusion add-on service, which is the thing for Solar and PDFG, the new thing on CF11 for CF HTML PDF. Down there at the bottom is the PMT, Performance Monitoring Tool Set, and then at the top is the API Manager and add-ons for that. Well, all I'm trying to point out here is that, so there is a Cold Fusion image, and we're going to talk all about that in the session, and there are these other images for these other things related to Cold Fusion, and they're interesting, and these are the only places you can find those things. And if you want to explore those, this makes it very easy, and that's what I want to show you, especially for you all who don't even know anything about Docker. Why is this interesting? Why would I care? Let's move on to that next. And actually, before I do, I just want to tell you who else is excited about Docker, and again, why would you want to be here? This was a image which I apologize again, got from the Docker site. It wasn't a very good image, but it's saying they looked at a Stack Overflow survey of developers, 90,000 developers, and among the services, products, and things that were most used, most loved, and most wanted, over on the left, for most used was Linux and Windows, and then Docker. And then for most loved was, I believe that's Linux, and then Docker. And then most wanted is Docker. So, some people are already declaring Docker is dead, just like you guys have been in Cold Fusion for a long time. They were saying Cold Fusion was dead 15, 20 years ago. I'm telling you, even just a few years after it came out, people were saying it was dead because other things were coming up. And that's the same thing happened with Docker. You're going to hear some people say Docker's dead, you're moving on to whatever. There's really nothing else that's like it that's got the force that it does in the IT community. And that's why it is worth you learning about it. But again, if you're new to it and don't understand what any of that is about, let me just show some examples. So first of all, and again, I'm not going to explain right now what I'm doing, I'll explain more later, but I'm going to run a command at the command line, which in just a moment, just trust me, that has gotten Cold Fusion and installed it. I'll explain if I didn't have it, what it would have done. I'll come back to that in a moment. But that's got Cold Fusion and installed it. If I didn't have it, it would have gone and gotten it. And now if I go to my browser, I'm trying to be there for later. Now if I go to my, say, Cold Fusion 8500, which I'll just quickly show you, I told it to expose port 8500. So when I come to this, I'm waiting for the browser to come up. Now that image, we'll talk later about images and containers, but that image and then the container under it came up pretty quickly, but then CF inside of it took some time to come up. And that's true also, you'll see with the command box. CF image, when you start the image, it might take as many as 20, 30 seconds before these things are responding. But once they're up, they're up. And now it's like I've got another Cold Fusion in my environment. And let me be clear, in case you don't get what I'm getting at. I don't have to have had Cold Fusion installed on my machine. I haven't to, so I can't say I didn't, but I didn't have to. I could go from having nothing but a brand new machine, could be a Chromebook, could be a Raspberry Pi. We'll talk about that later. It could be anything. If it runs Docker, then I could have told it to go get the Cold Fusion image, and it would spin it up and run it, and I'd be able to get to it through my browser at whatever port I told it to. And the way the simple implementations of Docker work, you just use locals. We'll talk later about moving to production and stuff like that, but this is just trying it out on your own machine. Remember, that's who the audience here really is for. For you guys that are beyond this, using Docker in production, you're way ahead of the game. We're talking about people that have never seen this before. So again, the point is I could have done this on a machine that had no Cold Fusion, and bam, I've got Cold Fusion running. And I didn't install it. I didn't go through an installer answering questions. I just ran that command. And again, in my case, I had already downloaded it to make it go faster. Because in this Wi-Fi, I don't know what I could have expected. But let's say you're on your own environment and you have 50 meg download speed. You probably could do that yourself. And again, you could have it in your slides. You see at the moment, you'll be able to try this yourself. If you did that and you had like 50 meg download, it might take about 20, 30 seconds to download this thing called the Cold Fusion image and then run it. That's what it would be doing, and it's now running, in my case, on my machine. And I had actually provided a password, so I'm going to go ahead and type in that password. I'll explain that later too, if you wonder what password. Come back to that. But anyway, I'm going through as if it's a brand new install. Those of you who've installed Cold Fusion before, you know that after you install it, the first time you run the administrator, you go through this couple of screens. But once you're past that, you're in. And in my case, I'm into Cold Fusion 2018, and I was already looking at something, so I was taken directly to a page. But I'm in the CF admin. If you're new to 2018, it does look a little bit different. It's just slightly differently organized. It's the same stuff. And if you get really lost, you can just come up here in the CF 2018 admin, search things like scheduled tasks, and find out where they are when you're lost in this interface. But anyway, the point is, I now have CF up and running, and all I had to do was run that one command. And if I didn't have it, it would have gotten it, and I didn't install it. So that's pretty good. Let me take it a step further. Just a second. And again, for now, I'm not going to explain what I'm doing, just take my word for it. And I'll explain later what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do now is something I'll talk about later, something called Docker Compose, which is when I just want to start one thing, I want to start multiple things that are related to each other. What I'm doing, and I'll explain it later, when I'm starting CF and the performance monitoring toolset. So again, for those of you in CF 2018, there is now a monitor built into Cold Fusion 2018 called Performance Monitoring Toolset, PMT. And normally you would go install it just like you would install Cold Fusion. And you can do it, and you can install Cold Fusion, you can install PMT, you can put the PMT on the same machine or another machine, and as long as it can reach the Cold Fusion, it will monitor it. Well, I just did both of those at once, something called Docker Compose that I'll explain later. But now I've got CF and the PMT running, and if I go into my browser and go to 9101/dashboard, that's the URL for going into the PMT. And it looks like it's still coming up itself. It says connecting down at the bottom. Let me just do a quick check. That's interesting, it's not there. I had run this demo beforehand, so it absolutely should just work. I had to stop and think about what it could be that's keeping it from working well. Just like material. Where's we got the underscore under it? No, that's a part of the name. So there you go, here it's coming up. I don't see any problems. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself here. These are things you all don't use Docker Compose wouldn't know. So, it looks like it should work. And that'll really stink if it doesn't come up, because that's kind of the whole point. Yeah, so I'm not going to spend much time on this, but just take my word for it. You'll be able to do that. There must be something unusual I'm not thinking of in my environment, because I had just done it. There's none running in the background. It's not in conflict with that. I'd already made sure before we started. But anyway, that's a bummer. I really am disappointed that didn't come up, because that kind of really deflates the excitement that I was hoping to engender. But the point is that would have shown me the PMT's interface. And then I could have gone through its process of telling it to monitor my CF instance. And the point, again, is if you guys who considered CF 2018 have tried that, first of all, you had to figure out where to put the CF PMT. And then if you did put it on the same machine as CF, you probably found it had trouble. And so Adobe recommends you put them on separate machines. And technically, these are separate from each other. They're not running inside of each other. They're both running in Docker. And again, I'm going to get back to what does that really mean. But the cool thing is that that would have been within seconds. I'm running CF and the PMT. Let me just try one more time to make sure it wasn't just a timing thing. I just try, yeah, it's not going to, I don't know. That's so unfortunate because it does flick things. But anyway, let's move on. I'll explain what I was doing. So just let that go. Remember the first demo. And I'll talk about some other ones later that maybe will be more intriguing. Because it really is, and I'm going to try to explain why it is. So first of all, I just want to repeat, to use Docker, typically you would install it. I'll talk about it in a moment, but you would typically install it. And the point is there's an installer for Linux and Windows and Mac. And just to be clear, in case any of you decide to look into this, if you're on Windows Home or if you're on Mac Sierra, before Sierra, you have to get this thing called Docker Toolbox. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to show installing it because I don't have Mac here. So anyway, you would get the Docker Toolbox and install it. And I'll just tell you guys, I didn't mention this, but on Monday I had done a day-long workshop, a pre-conference workshop here, and it was about this. And the point is, everybody had given them notes about how to install it with links to how to install it, and everybody did, and everybody had no trouble. It was amazing because if any of you guys have done workshops before, usually you find out that half the people either didn't do it or when they tried it, it didn't work. It just worked. Everybody's worked. So it really is that simple. I'm just going to leave it at that. There really is no difficulty for you to find out how to do it. And then I'm just clarifying that if you're on Windows 10 Pro and above, or if you're on Mac OS Sierra, then there's something called Docker Toolbox. And you want to get that. That's a more kind of advanced, more modern approach. And then if you're on Linux, you just get Docker, and there's no choice to be made. You just get Docker. The point is, all of this just takes minutes to do. You guys could do this text, somebody could be doing it right now while we're talking. And when you're done, you can now run Docker commands like I did. I didn't explain it, I just did one, but you can now run Docker commands from the command line. And if you don't have the command line, I'll talk about it later, about you get visual interfaces for managing this stuff. But let me take it a little differently, show it a little more slowly if some of you are new to Docker. I'm going to show you that and you can do this too if you want to, if you don't follow. You can get a hello world image. And that's what all the installer docs do. They all tell you, okay, after you've got it installed, let's do this hello world, just to see what that's about. And I'm going to go ahead and run that now. It's the simplest thing, Docker run hello world. And I'll explain what goes on when I do that in a moment. Run hello world. And notice what it's saying for me, and I'll explain why in a second, it's saying it couldn't find it, and therefore it's going to go pull it. And it's pulled it down, and it's run it, and it said hello from Docker. So what went on was I had removed it from my machine so I could show it what it'd be like for you. If you do Docker run whatever, and we'll talk about the whatevers in a moment, but if you say Docker run whatever, then it goes and looks for that image wherever it's supposed to be. By default, it looks at Docker Hub. And it says, hey, do you have that? Actually, before it even does that, it looks locally. It says, do you already have it locally? Yes or no? And if you do, then it just runs it. But if you don't, then it says, oh, so you go get it from that place, the registry, and download it, and then run it. And that's the Docker image. And when you can also pull it yourself if you just wanted to say, I want to go get it. But if you just run it, then it says, do I have it already? Yes or not? If not, go pull it. And then once I've got it, run it. So the image is the thing that's available out on these registries, and when you run them, you get created locally a container. That's the term we use. So you're getting the image, and then you're running and spinning up a container, and that container is now running that thing that you pulled down and ran. So in this case, this hello world one, it pulled it down, it ran it, it spewed out that output, and it stopped. And literally the container stopped, and it's no longer running. When I ran the Cold Fusion one, it didn't stop. It ran, and then I was able to go to the browser and look at it. Remember, I went to the admin. It was running in the background. So different images work different ways. This one just runs and stops, and we'll see later there's some CF commands that also can run and stop the CF image. So anyway, it's running, so the other one's still running, this one's not running. We'll leave it at that. Just want you to get that if you're totally new to this stuff. Now, I do want to clarify in case any of you go, I tried to install and I couldn't, or I can't install it because my box is locked down. I work in an environment where whatever. Everybody's got reasons why for some reason something doesn't work. Well, here's a cool thing. You can just go to a website called playwithdocker.com. Play-with-docker.com. You can do that right now if you wanted to. You could literally right now go to that website and do the command I just did, which I know you don't see on the screen. I apologize, you don't see that. But you would be able to, remember, when you go home and get my slides at the end of the day, you'll be able to go do this yourself at home. And you're not running it at home, you're running it on their server. So Play with Docker is a service, it's offered for free from Docker. And the way it works is that when you run it, you get an interface where you can use it for 4 hours, and it's a command line. And you can just, I was going to show it, but I think I mentioned I'm going to skip it. But you're in the command line, you just type Docker run, whatever you want to run, and it runs it, and it will pull it down from there. So right when you go there, it's never seen any images. You do the hello world and pull it down. Do the cold fusion images, pull it down. And their network's pretty fast, and it's between them and the registry, not you. So you on your, even on your phone, you could literally, I've tried it on an Android phone, it doesn't look good on a Mac. But certainly on a tablet or a Chromebook, or again, even an old machine, as long as you get to a browser, it doesn't matter what you're running, it goes to that site and it runs there, and it downloads it and runs it there. And when it runs it, it has an interface where it shows links to the ports that got exposed. We'll talk about that later. You just click a link and you're seeing, in our case, the CF admin, if you drilled into it. So it is that simple to go to that website and do that. And I just want to also add that if you want to do development, you for some reason can't run locally, you could also find on a cloud platform like AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, DigitalOcean, that you can get inexpensive container services where you can do the same things there. So you don't have to install this locally. But it's certainly going to make life easier to do for most of you. And then when you're ready to run production, all these cloud providers do also offer what they would call orchestration. And it might be Swarm, it might be Kubernetes, it might be something else. We'll talk about that towards the end, just in brief. But the point is, don't get hung up on it if you can't install it. There's lots of ways to run it from other places, and that's okay. It doesn't really matter where you run it. And that kind of leads to a good point about, well, what is Docker after all? So first, it's a relatively new platform. It was open source in 2013. And it allows you to build and ship and run applications pretty much anywhere. I've talked about the different OSs that it's supported. And this different platform. So it could be on pretty much any OS, pretty much any bit level, pretty much any processor type. It could be, like I said, Raspberry Pi, it could be a mainframe, it doesn't matter. As long as that thing, I'm going to say this and it might be what? As long as it runs Linux. Yeah, so as long as it runs Linux. Now you may say, wait, when I'm running Windows, I'm not running Linux. No, you're not. But when you get these Docker desktop or Docker toolbox things that you install, they install on your Windows or on your Mac already has Linux, but let's just say Windows. It installs on Windows, and that Docker thing in the background is running Linux for you. And it doesn't matter to you. You just go to the command line and run it, and up comes the admin, and it works. But it is under the covers running Linux. And that image from Adobe is a Linux image. And it doesn't matter if you're on Windows. It just doesn't matter. That's the point. The whole thing about Docker is that it runs the same across platforms, across different types of devices. And it really is becoming prevalent in IT as an alternative way to run and deploy server software. So as you have need to do pretty much anything, I want to show you in a moment the kind of things you can do. It might start to blow your mind. And I just want to say quickly, some people liken this to VM. It's really not a VM. It's a packaged application. It's not a VM. It's not as heavyweight as a VM. It doesn't have everything in it. And they spin up pretty quickly, whereas VMs sometimes don't spin up so quickly. And I'll just say, too, that packaged applications like this aren't new to Docker. There's been other approaches to doing it. It's just that Docker became a very popular way to do it, and it's really taken IT world by storm. But let me talk to you about some of the ways that you can take advantage of it. So again, you've gotten it. The point is, it changes the normal approach of installing something to just pulling it and running it, and running it. You can just run it and pull it automatically. And when you're done, and I'll show you this in a little bit, when you're done with it, you can just remove it. And it's not an uninstall, it's just a single command, like run said run it, it's called remove, and it'll remove it. You can stop it and remove it. We'll talk about that in a bit. And when you stop it, if it's a container and then you remove it, Whatever it was is gone, gone, gone. And if it's an image and you remove it, then the image is gone. If you say, I'm tired of working with the PMT, you can remove it, it's gone. And you don't have to uninstall it, it's just gone. You have one command to put it in, one command to take it out. Now some people may think, wait, what if I want to preserve the data that I create? Like in that administrator, if I were to go into it and change some setting, it's going to save it somewhere. When I close it and remove the container, it's going to disappear. What if I want to preserve that? There's ways to preserve data and to link to resources outside the container. And we'll talk about that a little bit. And I mentioned this already. Most Docker images really are used in Linux, and it does not matter. Don't let that hang you up. You'll be able to run them in the Docker. And that's really the game changer. One of the game changers is that it doesn't matter anymore. But the bigger point, and we're really trying to build up to this, is that it allows you to run things that you might not have normally thought you could run. So, of course, you can get web servers, you can get IIS, you can get Apache, you can get Linux, and any other tool that might come out. And you might have considered, let's say, trying one of these and found that it was difficult to install for you. Or I'll show you later some examples of ones where you would be able to install it because they don't have an installer for your OS. But the point is you can get containers for web servers. You can get containers for databases. And let me say this too, you don't have to get these things. I could have shown you, if we had time, I could show you that from within the Cold Fusion image, I could be pointing to a database on my local machine or in my network. As long as my local host, can reach something on the network, Docker can use that thing on the network. So I don't have to use another image, but the point is, there are images for these things, and if I wanted to try that, if I wanted to say, I hear people talking about MariaDB, go get the MariaDB image and spin it up, and it's now running in a container, and it's going to expose itself to the port, and then you can go into your Docker image of CF and point it to that. Okay, I'm not going to get into that, but I just want you to get it opens the doors for that flexibility to try things. Maybe you want to try NoSQL databases like Couchbase and MongoDB, or check it out, reverse proxies. If you were at somebody talk about reverse HA proxy, and then in a moment they talk about Varnish. Well, some of these things, if you're on Windows, they don't have Windows installers. So you can't try them unless you get another box and put it somewhere. And that's not the end of the world for many people, but for some people, their environment or their way of working, if it can't run on their own box, they're not going to do it. Well, I'm telling you, you could go get the Docker images for these things, and it doesn't matter if they're Linux. You just read the docs about how to use them, because once you run it and it's running, you just use it, and you don't have to worry about the fact that it's something that's technically Linux. It just doesn't matter. Same with if you want to get into playing with search engines, like Elasticsearch, Solar Guard within Cold Fusion. Messaging brokers like RabbitMQ, RocketMQ. And I want to just keep going, just to wet your whistle. You can use it with Tomcat. So Tomcat underlies Cold Fusion, but what if you wanted to compare how things work with real Tomcat versus Cold Fusion Tomcat? Go get the image, and when you run that image, you're now running Tomcat in its own container, separate from Cold Fusion. Node.js, when you hear people talk about that, maybe they want to move from Cold Fusion to Node.js. Now you can just go spin up a little Node.js container and start playing around with it, see if you like it. Perl, if you want to go old school, they got Perl, they got PHP, and more. I just want to say those are examples of similar application server to Cold Fusion. There's also images for languages. So you hear people talking about Python, or Ruby, or Golang, or Ruby, or Haskell, or Erlang. There's images for those. And so you don't have to go install the software and then figure out how to use it and remove it. You just get the image, and once it's up and running, you can play with it. And you can read their docs and resources about how to use it. And there's JVMs, like OpenJDK, or the Amazon Pareto version of that, or Oracle's JDK. You can even get entirely different Linux distros. So the container that we get comes with a Linux in it. We'll talk about that in a second. But if you wanted to try another image with a different Linux, you could. You can just go get that Linux image, and now you're in there and it's running that. The thing is, they all share what's called the same kernel, the Linux kernel. And that's the way Docker works. I've tried to avoid getting too deep into the weeds about the underlying underpinnings of Docker. But the point is, when you run these images, I just said they may already contain some variant of Linux in it. The Cold Fusion image does. I think it's a good tool. But it doesn't matter to us. We're just running it. That's all that matters. But it runs because what Docker provides is this implementation of the Linux kernel and a way to connect your images to those. So that's why you could go get a different distro and run it, and it'll run. So again, that's levels of detail that most of you don't need to know. I just wanted to put that out there for some of be interested. Also want to throw out that you can get whole packaged applications. There's monitoring solutions. There's logging software. There's content management systems and Atlassian tools like Bitbucket, Confluence, and Jira. You can just go get them. You don't have to install them. You just go get the image and you run the image and you read your docs about how to use it, and it works. And what you're reading is the docs about how to use the tool. It may not mention Docker, but it doesn't matter. So I'm just trying to say, that opens up a lot of doors to explore things that you might have wanted to explore, but maybe haven't explored. And then best of all, you can use all these things with easily. So for example, I just want to say, if you didn't know, Redis is an open source, in-memory key value database. That's the terminology they use. And in CF 2016, if you didn't know this, ColdFusion 2016, if you go to the admin, has in the memory variables page, it has a drop down that says, hey, instead of storing session variables in memory the way it always has forever, what if you'd like to store those sessions elsewhere? So CF has this ability to say, I want to store it in Redis. So you could go get the Redis image and then tell ColdFusion to connect to it. And now your sessions are in that Redis image. They're not in ColdFusion memory alone, they're in that Redis image. Well, you could have multiple images, and let me just stop for a second and say, forget now about Docker. Just in your own work environment, you could have multiple servers, instances of ColdFusion. They could all share one Redis if you wanted to, or they can each have their own. But the point is, the session variables are outside of ColdFusion. So if ColdFusion goes down and comes back up, the sessions get brought back in from where they were stored in Redis as soon as it comes back up. So people don't even notice that you restarted. It's been a long-standing hassle with things like CF or memory, sessions stored in memory. When you restarted it, everybody got logged out. This would open the door to that not happening. And you might go, that sounds cool, I want to explore that. And then you go to your work environment and they say, no, we can't let you do that, or no, you can't put it in Redis, or whatever. Well, you can just come play with it with Docker. You can easily do it. I'm going to show you towards the end how to do that very easily. I just want to point out these are possibilities that open up the doors of why you might consider leveraging things like this using Docker. CF 2018 also adds a feature to leverage Redis or Memcache to use them as distributed caching. So here again, with ColdFusion 9 and above, we had cache under the covers. We could use ColdFusion caching functions and other built-in caching features like query caching and stuff like that. Stored their things in cache, which was in memory. And if ColdFusion went down, then it went with it. Well, now you can, in 2018, I'm sorry, I should have got this, it's 2018 Enterprise. In 2018 Enterprise, you have the ability to use Redis. Now, I'll just quickly say that CF 2018 Standard also lets you use an alternative caching, Java caching system, JCS, and it's outside of ColdFusion. So you just can't use Redis or Memcache unless you're on Enterprise. Anyway, don't get hung up on that, I just wanted to make that point. And one of the reasons why I bring this up is that Windows users who might want to try using Redis, when you go looking into it, you find out that it's really treated like a second, what do they call it? Stepchild, the Redis stepchild. The installer for Windows for Redis is old and they don't promise to keep it up to date, and it might discourage you from even trying it. Well, heck, you just go get the image and run it, and I'll show you doing that in a little bit. Run them all together. It makes it just almost trivial to use on any OS. Okay, so now let's talk about running your first CF image. And by the way, what time do we stop? Just want to be sure. 11 what? 11:15. Okay. All right, so just quickly, when I ran the ColdFusion image, I did it, in passing like this. That's the way you could run it. Just say Docker run, and then the ColdFusion image, which you have to tell because it's not in Docker Hub. You have to tell it where to find it. So that's where you find it. That's the URL that it covers when you went to that website. And the docs, and I'll show you that in a moment. There's docs for this. It tells you that's what you would do. But if you did it, you'd get an error. I'm just going to tell you, you'd get an error because you have to accept the EULA. ColdFusion is a commercial product, and they make you accept the EULA. So before it runs, you have to pass in what's called an environment variable. And there's an environment variable which you pass in with this -e argument. There's also one to pass in a password. If you're starting up, you want to set a password, you can do that as well. And then you can also tell it to expose a port. I'm going to show an example of exposing it as a different port, 8502, and I'm going to throw in a couple of bonus ones. So anyway, here's the command that if I want to run this now, it's another CF image. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so again, I've just run it, there's the command, there's the image ID, the container ID, and if I go out to my browser and go to that 8502 in a matter of probably 15, 20 seconds, it'll come up. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter, and it's going to say waiting for localhost, and it'll eventually come up. And when it comes up, it's going to show us the built-in web server, which if you guys have used Fusion on your own, you've noticed that CF 2016 is not exposed to this port 8500 by default. Older versions, you have to choose to do it or not. Anyway, and it's got its own web root, and it's looking at the files in that web root inside the container. So there is a CFIE folder, there's a CF scripts folder, and there's some other files in there. The point is, this is now really running Fusion, listening to port 8502, and again, I could go to the administrator, go down into it just like I could with anything else, or I could mouse straight to it if I wanted to. Root files live. Right, we're going to talk about that next. So there's that, and there's that. Right, so where is this web root? So it's inside the container. When you got it from Adobe, they bundled it with a folder inside of it where they put the files. And we'll see later there's a way that we can connect to that and point it to folders outside of that host to be able to reach into the container and have it find our files instead of its own files. So there you go. And I did that. There's a concept of labels in Docker to distinguish one version from another. The vendor chooses what labels to give them. And we didn't use one in the quick example I did earlier, I just said Fusion. But there is a latest 2018, there's a latest 2016. There's specific different labels for each update of CF. And each of these is its own full image. So if you wanted to, with the bit of a debacle that happened last week, the latest updates for 2018 and 2016, you could easily run one image that's, say, 2018-04, and another one that's 2018-05. And again, using approaches to have it run your code, you can see how your code runs with update 4 versus update 5. Oh, it broke. And you don't have to install it. That's the point. You don't have to install it. In fact, right now I've got two images running, two different images. They're different running. They happen to be the same version, but I could have done one in 2016 and one in 2018. And they both be on the same machine. And I could even tell them to both look at the same code and run that code in those versions. And I know I'm skipping some things in the interest of time. I just can't get into the weeds. I'm going to tell you more about where to find out more about all this stuff later. There's also a concept of latest label. I'm just going to say that's a convention. Some love it, some hate it. It doesn't mean the very latest, but it usually does mean that if you go get it, it will be the latest with CF and give you to your 2018 update 5. One little thing that you need to understand is that you've already pulled or are running in the past a latest image, and the vendor puts up a new one, it's not going to get to the new one. If you just run it, you're going to run the one you already have. But if you pull it again, then it will check it and go, oh, I need to go get the latest one. And that's part of what confuses people about the latest. Just also want to move on to its commercial product, so it's subject to a EULA. How is this licensed? Well, this is very important. It's free for development. Free for development. You don't have to pay Adobe anything to use it. Just go get it and run it. There was no login, right? I didn't have to go to their website and tell them how many people are in my company and all that crap that we have to say all the time. You just get the image and it runs. For development, it's free. And for most people, that's all they ever do with Docker, so it's not a big deal that it's commercial. But as for production, I just want to say there's no mention in the EULA, the end user license agreement. It doesn't mention Docker, it mentions VMs, but it doesn't mention Docker. So technically, it's kind of a gray area. But if you go to the docs for the CF image, and I'll tell you how to get to that in a moment, they point you to a fact, frequently asked question, where they ask and answer that question. And there they say that if you're on CF Enterprise, you can run it with up to 8 Docker instances. You may go, well, that sounds crap, I want to run 50. All right, well, you won't be able to. But if you do have, let's say, 2 CF Enterprise licenses, then you could run 16 of them. So that is what it is. It's worse, unfortunately, for standard. They say you have to license each image individually. One license per CF Enterprise.
License for a machine or book?
Well, it's all subject to the EULA, and so if you read it closely, it says it's the same way it would have been licensed with a real machine, which is per core. And that gets confusing because when you're deploying these things in some environment where you don't know what it is, that's a big question. So hold that thought, because these are all definitely things that make some people give people pause. So I just want to remind you, most people do just use Docker for development and test, so don't let that be a showstopper necessarily. Or you may deploy your apps in some way other than Docker, in which case this licensing of Docker really doesn't matter. But here's some good news. They have said that in 2020, CF 2020, there's plans to improve the Docker licensing as well as the size of the image. So I didn't show you pulling it down. It was like 800 meg. That's why I said if you want to slow down, it can take a couple minutes to download an 800 meg image. They're going to make it much smaller. Their goal is to make it 100 meg and to be modular. So as you say you want other things, those other things will be pulled in if you want them. And to make the startup time faster. I said it was about 30 seconds. Their goal is to make it faster in just seconds. And I'll just say, rather than trying to give you the long URL, if you just Google Cold Fusion Docker licensing, you'll find in the first page of Google, there's information from them, and there's a blog post from me that will point you to this discussion about how it's supposed to be changing in the future, based on an interview they gave a few weeks ago. And I'll just say, too, that the CF image is deployed by default as in trial mode, and they will revert to developer edition after 30 days. You don't keep a Docker image up for that long, but if you do, a container wouldn't stay up that long, but if you do, it will revert to the developer edition, unless you put in a license key. And there is provision to provide license keys as an environment variable. And there's also provision to choose whether to do development profile or secure profile, and it defaults to development profile. Just want to say you can get help for using the Docker CF image from the Docker image itself. I'll just come back to the command line really quickly and just call up this command and say help. Simple as that. And let me check out that port because I've already got the names. Sorry, conflict. I told it not to show us any output, so like that. Oh, that's it. Okay, and it's a little, I made my monitor font big so you can see this. But there's the result of the command. And it tells you that there's these different commands, like I just did help, and default is to start. And it talks about some stuff that won't make sense when you're first getting started. And then it lists all the environment variables and what their defaults are and what their purposes are. And so again, when you get this handout, you'll be able to run this yourself. Just go back and run it yourself and leave it at that. And I want to point out, there is no Docker convention to use a help command. That's something that Adobe offered, but you try it with like an Nginx image and it won't work. And again, there were those other commands. And I'll just say really quickly, there's an info command that would allow you to see exactly what version it is. So in the interest of time, I'm going to skip it. There's just a second. So that's 15. Right? Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to skip some things now in the interest of time, scoot up. So you can run this yourself and it'll report what version it is. There's also a CLI, command line interface for Cold Fusion, that was introduced in 2016 to let you run any CFML file from the command line. And then in 2018, it was evolved to offer a real REPL, and it is really more a REPL than people would expect. It's not, every command box is all brand, but it is a REPL. And so I'll leave you to explore those on your own. You can do that from within the image, or you can do it on your own in your own Cold Fusion that you've installed. There's a cf.bat or cf.sh built into your Cold Fusion, CFusion bin folder. So check that out. And then I mentioned these environment variables, and in the interest of time, I'm going to not go into them in any depth, other than say, you can provide a license key, you can provide it for a serial previous one if you need to. You can enable these things like the external add-on service or this external search sessions feature. If you want to try that, you can do that. And there's different environment variables for those coming up. And then CF offers, I showed it in passing, but I'll say real quickly here, you can have it run a setup script. So if you wanted to call what's called the admin API, you can configure things inside the container by using that setup script, and it can run any CFML, including the admin API. And there's other ways to auto-configure things inside the container, and then you can delete that. You can tell this, you can have a variable that says, hey, well, after you do it, delete yourself so you don't leave the vestiges of that configuration script. Some people look at this and go, is there a way to edit the JVM config, to raise the heap size and stuff like that? Unfortunately, no. Adobe didn't provide for that. There's no environment variable for that. Tomcat offers one. It would be nice. They could follow that model, but they don't. So for now, you'll have to do it other ways. I don't have time in this session to talk about that. I'll tell you more about where I'll give you more information on all these things coming up soon. But anyway, I hope it will be addressed in that updates in the next version. And then if you wanted to enable that add-on service with things like Solar or the PDFG, then you would use this configure external add-ons, and then you could do these other environment variables to say, where is it? They all default to work with an image that's on your machine, so you don't have to do any of these. I'll show you an example a little later of doing it. But there's what they were, and if you want to use the external sessions feature, same thing. Once you configure it, yes, I want it to be enabled, then here's where the Redis thing is and what port to use. And again, the defaults are fine with the one that's running on the container. And I'll just say quickly too, some of you look at all those variables, I don't want to be putting all those on a big long command line, this is crazy. We don't have to. There is support for what's called an environment file, .env file. And you can put in, like let's say I created a Cold Fusion env file with these two arguments that I was using earlier. Then I can use this --env file and point to it. So this command, which again, you guys will be able to try this yourselves on your own when you get the slides later, that saves me having to put in all those command line arguments of environment variables. I just point to a file and it loads them automatically. And remember, some of you who are experienced, Docker people, this is like basic stuff. Remember, that's the audience here. It's getting started with Docker and CF images. So I did want you to understand these things. And then there's more to understand, but I do want to point out, I've said it a couple times, where this offers a Docker CF image, and you're not going to move on with that question. Most of what we've talked about today applies to using them. I want to point out too that if you do go to Docker Hub, you're going to see that there's other CF Docker images that people created privately, and they're not official, and you might not want to run them without being very careful about what you're looking at. This has been obviously focused on the Adobe CF images. Let me just talk quickly about the Ortis. It's a command box image. It's not a Cold Fusion image per se, it's a command box image, and it has labels, which if you point the label to Cold Fusion or to Lucy, then when you get it, it will get that engine and run it, and it's got environment variables and options, and can do 2018, 2016, and 11, and Lucy. And this would be an example, again, in initial time, I'm not going to run it, but it would have just run it, it'd be exposed to port 8080, and I would see a browser display a page saying, welcome, and I could have gone to the administrator, the same CFID administrator. And it will auto-generate a CF administrator password and show it to you in its logs, which you can just double-click the big long thing, and it's more secure that way. But you can also pass one in via configuration. And it's got more environment variables and different ones, which is cool. It's got lots more configuration options because it's built on command box. Command box is, separate from Docker. Command box, some of you may be using it to run Cold Fusion. It's its own world of ways of running CF and Lucy and other things from the command line. Kind of, I don't want to say predates Docker, because I think it came out after Docker, but it's a different way of doing things, very similar to Docker. Before the world got excited about Docker, people that were running CF who learned about how to use command box would have been and today still are very impressed with what they can do to run CF, different CF engines very easily. And because it has existed for a while, there's lots of configuration options. And my point is they all apply to using the command box image. So you can leverage that same experience if you have it. They even offer an option to deploy the image without an administrator called headless. That's just a few. So I just wanted to point out quickly, there are differences. As far as the CF images, there's differences. It offers an ability to configure the CF via a car file. So I didn't get into this, but you could create a car file, go through an archive, and put it in a particular place with the startup of the image, and it will just automatically read that car file. So if that defines data sources, define mappings, set trusted cache on or off, you can just configure that in the car file, and it would automatically get configured. So that's pretty cool. And then I mentioned that config script, and then these ability to change environment variables. There's some of them are different than what you'll find in command box. And of course, that ability to run these other things like the Cold Fusion Analysis, Cold Fusion PMT, the API Manager, those aren't often currently in the command box, and I would expect that they would be. So anyway, what about differences in startup times and sizes? Well, once you tell it to get, let's say the CF 2018 image, it's still going to be a big download of that image. It's not clean. It's still several hundred meg. And when you start it up, it's still going to take about 30 seconds before your first browser page can respond. So anyway, I said midway checkpoint. I clearly way estimated where we were going to be. Like I told you, I did this day-long session in my brain. I was trying to think how to winnow things down. But this is not terrible for me. There's only 10 minutes left. I just want to make a couple points. One, if you catch it, by now we have 3 different instances of cold fusion going on. One is at 8500, 101, 102. There are 3 different CFs. I can stop one and see that it will fail. The other ones will still be running. And I'm going to just leave you guys to read the slides about how to manage containers and all that stuff. But I can see that there are 3 containers. And I should have said 3, sorry. But see how easily we created 3 containers, just ran these commands and we did it. There was no installer. And if you tried to run the cold fusion installer twice on one machine, it would say, no, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. Now some of you are going, well, Enterprise lets you create instances. Yes, it does. This was a lot easier than creating instances, and they're not permanent, for better or worse. The whole point about containers is that they can be short-lived and come up and be spun up and spun down. That's a whole world of orchestration we haven't even gotten to. And I knew we wouldn't. I'll point it to you in the end. But the point is, this isn't the same as instances. It's in a lot of ways better. And so now would have been a good time to talk about ways to manage containers. And I'll just go through this quickly. You can read this stuff on your own later. You can list what containers you have. You can list stopped containers. It would make more sense if I could have shown you. I'm going to skip all this in the extra time. You can get help for Docker commands. I want you to see this. You can say Docker, the command, -- help, and you'll get help for whatever it is if you start using this stuff and get confused. And you can also just say Docker, and you'll see all the other commands. And it can be overwhelming. So there's excellent docs online. So this is an example. If you just go visit this URL, you'll see all about the PS command. And there's a full page on each one, sometimes multiple pages, a whole section on each command. Because there's a lot of power to this stuff, even though it's simple. Like, so literally, the fact that we don't get any beyond this, you've got what I wanted you to get. The rest of it's just administrative matters. And what I show you is enough to take the ball and run with it. But if you wanted to, you could become much more adept and dig further in a lot of these things. So we can stop containers that are running. I won't take the time to do that. We can kill them. There's a slight difference. Kill goes faster than stop. And there's more to it, probably you agree about that. One thing I do, again, want to share for all of you, it can get annoying typing these container IDs. There's weird names. Let me just show you really quick. If I say Docker PS, that was the command that would list running containers. Over on the far right, which in this case is right here, right there. Priceless, shockly, blissful, leaky. These are names that you give the containers automatically unless you tell it to use a name. And so when you read docs about how to stop this container, they can say Docker stop that. Well, that gets annoying. Then you can also say Docker stop that. Well, that gets annoying too. Here's a cool tip. And some people that have been using Docker for a long time don't know this. You only need to type enough of that ID, not the name, but the ID, to be uniquely identified. So if I did a Docker PS like I just did, and there's 028, 04, blah, 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 I could say Docker stop 02. And as long as there's no other one that starts with 02, it'll stop that guy. That's huge if you've not seen it. And it applies to all command stack on containers. And you can start a container that's been stopped. It's interesting, I'll leave you to explore that on your own. You can restart a container, which means bring it down, bring it back up. That's interesting. And then you can remove containers once you stop them. I'll leave you to explore that on your own. There's more advanced commands, different modern ways of doing that. And then this is also something I want you to know. If you're going to have to do that, first of all, there's a container prune that removes all your stop containers. That's nice. But you can also provide multiple IDs. So again, if you did the Docker PS and there were 4 there, and you wanted to stop 3 of them, you could say Docker RM, and the first 2 digits of the 3 you want to stop, and those 3 will stop. Again, that'll help some of you not have to do that all the time to test it. So leave it at that. What happens to the information inside the container? We talked a little bit about that earlier. And there's ways to store the information. I'll talk about that just quickly as we move on to managing images. You can list the images, you can remove images, you can prune images. There's a user interface. If you don't like doing all this stuff at the command line, very popular one's called Portainer. I'll leave you to look into this to read about doing it. It's very simple. You just run this command and it opens up an image at that port, and now you've got a user interface. And then if you use Visual Studio Code, it has a nice plugin for documents. Very nice. Again, I'll put the logo showing you. Volumes, very important feature to understand. Allows you basically poke a hole in the container and say, I want to have you see my local files as what's inside the container. And it's really worthy of a whole day of its own, but just basically there's a -v argument that lets you map a folder on the host to inside the container. So if I had code, let's say at init.www, I could say -v, init.www. In the case of the cold fusion image, that help in the docs had told us that it looks for its code inside the container, and a folder called app. They just picked the name, they called it app. So if we want to have our code run inside the container, we just use a -v command. Oh, I thought I had an example, but I'll modify it for an example. And then besides pointing to files like that, there's a concept of named volumes. I'll leave you to look into that, very powerful. And there's help about all these things. And then there's a notion of building images. We've been doing everything at runtime. There's value in both. I'll leave you to explore creating your own images and why that can be useful. I wasn't going to get into that in this session anyway. We needed for you to explore that. The Adobe Community help page shows using a build to do something that would be easier. There's a way to commit the state inside of an image to a new image. If you wanted to, I'll leave you to read about this later. And then I talk about the car import feature. I'll leave you to look at that. The setup feature, we didn't look at that. CFconfig is another tool from Fortis, which existed primarily as a command box, but can also be used to manage any CF image or not just any CF instance. Your own Cold Fusion has nothing to do with command box. Don't be thinking that it only applies to command box. You can edit, extract, compare, and do other cool things with administration. And it was originally a command box module. And it's built into the command box Docker image. It's not in CS, which could work with it. I'll leave you to look into that at this website. I hoped that I would have about 15 minutes by the time we got to this. I'll just say quickly, when you want to manage multiple images at once, there's this tool called Docker Compose, where you create a single config file, or potentially multiple, but particularly one config file that has all the information you need to bring up potentially multiple images. And I'm just going to show you one. Let's say I had one Cold Fusion environment file and one Docker Compose file that looked like this. You would say, I want to make a service of CF, call it a container called CF, of this image, and expose these ports, and point to this environment variable file. It's just like what I did with the command line, but I would save this in a file called Docker Compose, I'll put over it in a slide a week later. And once I've done that, I can just say Docker Compose up, and it'll look, if I'm in the directory where that lives, it'll look at that file and bring that up. Now that's interesting, just bringing that up. And I'll leave you to read some things about later and stuff. And you can manage them, there's commands for them, and again, they're similar to what we've already seen. But insofar as I was going to hopefully be able to show you the CF PMT and the Redis one, and I'll just show you quickly the PMT one. I tried to run it earlier, it didn't work. But let me just show you, here's the CF PMT one. And it's just a little bit different. There's the CF image. A little bit better? So there's that, and I even showed using environment variables. You can look at that later, that's a cool thing. And then there's the PMT. So there's the CF image and the PMT image, and it's got an environment variable. And now when I do the Docker goes up, boom, it comes up. And now I'm running both. And I could have done that. I tried to really never had that problem. And then I also have an example of doing it with CF and Redis. But this stuff is also documented on the Adobe Docs page. I said if you just Google Cold Fusion Docker images, the first page that comes up is the Adobe Docker page for working with images. Trying to wrap up. I have several tips on troubleshooting it, using logs, using command line inside of the image is pretty cool. Yeah, using Docker stats, pretty cool. You might need to increase the size of the resources on Docker desktop if you're using that to raise the memory that you can use. This you can use. And then you can use monitoring besides the PMT, you can use Fusion Reactor. I just want to point out, you can use Cold Fusion's CF images with Fusion Reactor. It wasn't documented until a few weeks ago when I put that up there. And so check that out, there's the URL for that, so you can definitely do that. Then as far as orchestration, once you've got the compose file down, it's not very difficult to go from that to using other things like Swarm and Kubernetes. And I'm just pointing out here, there's Swarm, Docker Swarm. And Matt commended the session on Swarm. He's done nice posts on that. Kubernetes is the next evolution in that. It's also offered inside of Docker Desktop to get started. And the point is, once you've figured out how to work these locally, then you can push these things up to Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, DigitalOcean. And I'll leave you to look into testing the CI/CD possibilities, and then why developers on Docker. I'll just go over that. And learning more on your own, lots of topics. I'll give you resources. I'm sorry, I realized that that's a reference from the previous day-long session. I'll get you guys some resources when I update the slides. And this is the last point. I'm going to offer a blog post soon with that information to help you out as well. And you should go try things out. Raise any issues at the bug tracker, say how to do it. And I plan to do it 30 days to this stuff, so I'll go over this thing more slowly, one day at a time. Not slowly, but in more detail, we'll say, and you'll have time to do it. If you have any questions on what we did, sorry, I ran over 2 minutes, you can reach me at charlie@arehart.org again on social media and all these things. And one last thing, if you've heard of the Cold Fusion Meetup, I'm trying to start that up again. I've got a session starting next week, so that's coldfusionmeetup.com. And I'd love to get the speakers who present here to give their talks, so I hope to be announcing over time more and more people presenting on the Cold Fusion Meetup. It's an online user group meeting where people present the talks. As simple as that. Okay, with that, you guys can go enjoy lunch. Don't forget to do reviews. Thank you.